When my grandpa died, he left me everything in his will, but my mom tried to steal it all, saying I didn't deserve a penny because I was just a mistake she regretted having. My name's Casey. I'm 19 now, but this story really starts when I was just a kid, about 7 or 8, when I first started to understand that something was off in my family. It wasn't just the way my mom looked at me like I was some constant reminder of something she hated. It was how she barely saw me at all, like I was just a burden she couldn't shake. She never called me sweet names, never kissed me goodnight, never showed up to school plays or even parent teacher meetings. People would ask where my dad was, and I didn't even know how to answer. Mom refused to talk about him. All I ever got was he walked out because he never wanted you, just like I shouldn't have wanted you either. That stung. Even as a little kid, I felt it in my chest like a stone I couldn't cough up. But then there was Grandpa Joe, my mom's father. He was everything she wasn't. He had this big old house on the edge of town with a wraparound porch and rocking chairs, like something out of a country song. I used to spend entire summers there, and for once, I felt normal, safe, loved. He taught me how to fish, how to fix up his old Chevy truck, how to tell the good apples from the bad at the farmer's market. But most of all, he taught me that I mattered, that I wasn't some mistake. I was his girl, his little bean sprout, as he'd call me, because I was always growing tall and thin like I had something to prove. He even kept pictures of me on the mantle. Not just in group shots, either, solo ones, like the time I won a spelling bee or built a birdhouse all on my own. He always said, "You got fire in your bones, Casey. Don't let anyone snuff that out." Mom hated that. She barely visited him, and when she did, she acted like being there was some court-ordered punishment. She'd roll her eyes when Grandpa praised me and mutter things under her breath like, "Don't fill her head with nonsense." One time, I overheard them arguing in the kitchen. Grandpa had raised his voice, which was rare. He said, "She's not a mistake, Diane. She's your daughter. Start acting like it." My mom's voice was cold, sharp. I didn't ask to be a single parent. I didn't ask for her. "You want to play dad? Be my guest." I never forgot that night. I sat on the stairs with tears in my eyes, hugging my knees, wondering what I had done wrong just by being born. The years passed, and I clung to Grandpa's love like it was a life raft. When I turned 16, I got my first job at the local diner, just so I could afford my own bus tickets to visit him on weekends. He was getting older, slower, and the first signs of memory loss had started creeping in, but he never forgot me. Meanwhile, my relationship with my mom grew colder. She saw my independence as defiance. When I asked her about college, she scoffed. "You think we've got money for that? You better figure out how to live in the real world, sweetheart. Not everyone's gonna baby you like my old man does." Then came the phone call that changed everything. I was 18, working a double shift, when I got the news. Grandpa Joe had passed away in his sleep. My knees buckled right there in the break room. The grief came like a tidal wave, sharp and forgiving. The one person who ever believed in me was gone. Forever. The funeral was a blur of black clothes and fake condolences. My mom stood at the front like she actually cared, dabbing her eyes with a tissue like she hadn't gone months without even calling him. I kept my distance. After the burial, the family gathered at Grandpa's house, which felt strange without his warm voice filling the rooms. A lawyer arrived to read the will. That's when the shock hit everyone like a punch to the gut. Everything, everything had been left to me. Not just the house, but the savings account, his truck, even some land he owned on the outskirts of town. Grandpa had named me as the sole beneficiary. No one else got a thing, not even my mom. Gasps filled the room. My aunts and uncles exchanged furious glances. But no one looked more stunned or furious than my mother. She didn't say a word at first, just stared at me with this look I'll never forget, like I was dirt on her shoe. Later that night, when everyone else had gone, she cornered me in the kitchen. "You think you deserve all this?" she spat. "You think you earned it?" I opened my mouth to speak, but she cut me off. "You were a mistake, Casey. A drunken one night stand I should have taken care of before it was too late. And now you're walking around like you're some chosen one? The words hit me harder than I thought they could. But she wasn't done. I'll contest the will. You'll see. You don't deserve a penny. That money was supposed to be mine. And just like that, she walked out of the house my grandfather left to me, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. I wanted to believe she was bluffing, that she was just lashing out in grief and jealousy. But it didn't take long for the legal threats to start. 1 week later, I got a letter from her lawyer claiming I had manipulated an elderly, mentally compromised man into changing his will, that I had unduly influenced Grandpa during his final years. She was suing me for everything. I felt sick, powerless. I was 18, broke, and barely out of high school. She had resources and connections I didn't. But then something inside me clicked, the part of me Grandpa had always nurtured. The fire in my bones. The belief that I did matter. That I wasn't some mistake, no matter what she said. So I fought back. I found a lawyer who agreed to take my case pro bono after I showed him the documents Grandpa had left behind, handwritten letters, recordings, even a video he'd filmed just a year before he passed. In the video, Grandpa sat in his favorite chair, looking straight into the camera. I know this might be contested, he said, but I want it on record. Casey is the one person who ever showed me real love and care. She didn't ask for anything, she just gave. This house, this land, this legacy, it belongs to her. Not my daughter, who couldn't even be bothered to visit me when I was sick. That video became our biggest weapon. The court process dragged on for months. My mom tried everything, claimed I was unstable, that Grandpa had been senile, even accused me of forging documents. But every time she threw mud, it landed back on her. I had character witnesses, neighbors, nurses, even Grandpa's best friend, all ready to testify that I was his only consistent family, that I had taken care of him when no one else did. The judge saw right through her. In the end, the will stood. Everything stayed in my name. My mom stormed out of the courtroom, red-faced and bitter, muttering something about cutting me off for good. But in that moment, I didn't care. Because for the first time in my life, I had won. Not just the house, or the land, or the money, but the right to own my story. To own me. After the courtroom victory, you'd think I would have felt pure joy. Relief, maybe. And yeah, there was a moment when I stood outside the courthouse and let the sun hit my face, thinking he did it. Grandpa protected me, even in death. But that feeling didn't last. Because winning the case meant I had to fully face the truth. I didn't have a mother anymore. Not really. And maybe I never did. She didn't call. She didn't write. She unfriended me on every platform, blocked my number, and told anyone who'd listened that I had scammed my dying grandfather and stolen her inheritance. That part hurt in ways I hadn't expected. Not because I missed her approval, I'd lived my whole life without that, but because I had this deep, childlike hope she might finally come around. That maybe losing the lawsuit would wake her up to how much pain she'd caused me. But no. If anything, it made her meaner, more vicious. I heard through cousins and neighbors that she was spreading rumors, telling people I was mentally unstable, that I'd isolated Grandpa, that I was trying to destroy the family on purpose. She even told my former school counselor that I'd faked the video evidence. It would have been easier to pack up and run, to sell the house and disappear to some city where no one knew my name. But Grandpa wouldn't have wanted that. He left me this house because he believed in roots. He used to say, "Don't let someone else's rot chase you from the soil that grew you." So I stayed. I fixed up the house, stripped the peeling wallpaper in the guest room, repainted the porch, replaced the cracked windows. I turned the den into a little library, just like Grandpa always talked about doing. Every time I completed something, I'd whisper, "What do you think, Grandpa?" And somehow, I always felt him smiling. The money he left me wasn't enough to live lavishly, but it was enough to buy time. I enrolled in a local community college, part-time, and started studying social work. I wanted to help kids like me, kids who grew up feeling unwanted and invisible. I also took a job at the town's youth center. At first, it was just a way to stay busy, but soon it became the place I felt most alive. There was a little boy there, Jeremy, who reminded me so much of myself. Quiet, scared, always watching people from a corner. His mom was in and out of rehab, and he barely spoke above a whisper. But he took to me fast. We built Legos together, did puzzles, talked about dogs and dinosaurs. One day, he asked me, "Do you think some moms just don't like their kids?" I froze. The question knocked the wind out of me. But I sat down, looked him in the eye, and said, "I think some moms are broken. And sometimes, broken people break other people without meaning to. But it's not your fault. Ever." His little nod, just that quiet understanding, made me feel like I was doing something Grandpa would have been proud of. Still, the pain didn't vanish. There were nights I lay awake wondering what would happen if I ran into my mom at the grocery store, or a family funeral, or a cousin's birthday party. What would I say? Would I forgive her? Would she even acknowledge me? Some nights, the answer felt like no, but others, I didn't know. I just didn't know. A full year passed. I had almost settled into a new rhythm of life, quiet, steady, emotionally safer. The lawsuit felt like a past life. My mom? A scar I'd learned to live with. Until one afternoon, when a strange package arrived at the house. It was addressed to me, but the return address wasn't familiar. No name, just a P.O. box in another county. Inside the box, wrapped in layers of yellowed newspaper, was an old metal tin. And inside that tin were letters, dozens of them. Some were faded and dated from as far back as the late 1990s. All were handwritten. All were addressed to one person, my mom. And the sender? My dad. I felt a cold wave crawl over me. I had never met my father. Mom always told me he ran away when she got pregnant, that he was a loser who never wanted anything to do with me. She made it sound like he was the worst kind of man, cruel, selfish, even dangerous. But the letters told a very different story. "Diane, please. Let me see her. Just once. I know I made mistakes, but I want to be her dad. Why are you keeping her from me? Doesn't she deserve the truth?" The more I read, the more my hands trembled. Letter after letter, some angry, some heartbreaking, painted a picture of a man who had tried, who had begged, who had loved me from a distance because my mother had cut him out completely. And then I found one letter, never sent. It was from my mom to my dad. She must have written it and never mailed it. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. "You think you deserve to be part of her life? You don't. She wasn't supposed to happen. I lost everything because of that pregnancy, my scholarship, my future, my pride. You want to swoop in now and play hero? Over my dead body. You don't get to be the good guy in this story. She's mine, and I'll raise her however I see fit." My eyes filled with tears. Rage, grief, betrayal, they all boiled in my chest at once. She had lied to me, for years. She'd kept my father away, not because he abandoned us, but because she hated me for being born. And then I saw it, tucked behind the letters, an old photo. Faded, bent, but still clear. It was me, as a baby, in the arms of a young man with dark eyes and a warm smile. My father. He was holding me like I was the most precious thing on earth. That night, I sat on the porch with a tin of letters on my lap, the sun setting behind the trees. I thought about confronting her, marching to her door, shoving the letters in her face, screaming why. But I didn't, because suddenly, I realized something. I didn't need her apology to heal. I didn't need her to admit what she did, or to tell the truth, or even to look me in the eye again. I already had the truth, and that truth set me free. I still don't know where my dad is today. The letters stopped coming around my second birthday. Maybe he gave up. Maybe he moved on, but I'm trying to find him. And this time, no one is going to stand in my way. Epilogue. Sometimes, I walk through Grandpa's house and feel his presence in the floorboards, in the wind that rustles the trees, in the photos on the wall. He gave me more than property or money. He gave me a chance, a foundation. My mother may have tried to erase me from her life, but Grandpa etched me into his legacy. And now, I'm writing a new story. One where I am not a mistake. One where I matter. Because I do. And if no one else ever says it again, I know he did.